No, I was born here. This is family generation. We were born between the rivers. We were asked to leave. We left in '66 to relocate outside the park.
TVA decided that they wanted all the property, and some of them were fighting to keep their homes, and we just didn't put forth the effort with the kids and all. We didn't put forth the effort to try to fight it, which I think it was a losing battle anyway.
And some of his relatives asked him where he had arranged to go to, and he said, well, nowhere. And they asked him why, and he said, where are you going to go when you're already home?
I am an original resident from between the rivers. I left there in '66. My family had been there for generations.
Lived between the rivers when I was born from '39 until we built our home. My husband and I married. He was from also between the rivers, and we built our home in 1964. And then we had to move because Tennessee Valley Authority purchased our home, and we moved to Lake City in 1966.
My family had been on the farm I grew up on since 1780s. It was a land grant for the Revolutionary War.
Between the rivers was isolated from other communities simply because of the rivers. You couldn't drive. You just didn't walk across the river. We had to take a ferry boat out and distance of travel. So it tended to make the people dependent upon each other. So those are the memories that you come back to.
Well, one of my greatest memories was going to my grandparents' house. They lived up on a ridge not too far from here, 3 miles at the most. And then my mother and having to cut wood and raise a garden and all the things that you did back then to get by. Actually, my dad died when I was a baby, 16 months old, and my oldest brother was 13. My sister was 8, and my younger brother was 5. So mother raised 4 kids between the rivers, did a great job, I think, to raise them all and send us all to school and to finish high school. And some of us had some college. We weren't college graduates, but we had college, all of us.
I had 2 brothers, and we had a big farm surrounded by farms. Everybody we knew it. We were all multi-generational neighbors and everything. And we'd just get out and wander around through the woods, play in the creeks, go over to Kentucky Lake. And if you're out someplace, got hot and thirsty or something, you could just stop in anywhere, Everybody knew you, and you knew everybody else.
Kids nowadays have the technology, and they don't know about those. Drop the handkerchief and playing tag, all those games. Ante over. They don't know about all those games. That was a good memory.
The unity of friends and family actually come back to be more important than anything else.
I think to a person over here, everybody tell you they would come back in a heartbeat if they could. If you put it back the way it was.
We were asked to leave. We left in '66 to relocate outside the park.
We decided that it was time to build our house. We both had jobs, so we bought some land, 4 acres, and built our home. And of course, we planned to live there the rest of our lives and raise our children there. But TVA decided that they wanted all the property, and some of them were fighting to keep their homes. And we just didn't put forth the effort with the kids and all. We didn't put forth the effort to try to fight it, which I think it was a losing battle anyway.
It really was a depressing situation because the people that live between the rivers, many of them, it was home 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They didn't travel a lot, and when they were forced out, it did put them under great stress, and it resulted in a lot of early termination for a lot of people.
We left in, I was 67.
Many of the people from between the rivers lost their homes 2 and 3 times. They had homes taken away when they built Kentucky Dam and Kentucky Lake. Many of them relocated to the Barkley side, and then Barkley Lake or the Cumberland River was flooded, and they lost their home a second time. And then when they made the park, many of them lost it a third time. They had the homes taken away from them 3 times. So being young when I left when I was 16, 17, so it wasn't like the people was in it, the adults at the time.
Well, we're officially listed as willing sellers because my father had been killed in a farming accident when I was younger. And my stepfather had already been forced to move 3 times. They did first resettlement administration in 37, 38, and then Kentucky Dam, and then Barkley Dam, and then the wildlife refuge. And then they finally came back and said they wanted everybody gone for the Land Between the Lakes project. So there were a lot of people who had been moved around. Well, some of the people moved out of the way of Barkley Lake and then found out they were going to take additional land to add into the refuge. And a lot of people hadn't even really gotten moved into where they were, and they had to leave again. He lived up by close to Golden Pond, and it was an older man and his wife. And they finally came and got him and arrested him, put him in jail in Louisville. And then told him they were going to keep him in jail until his wife got things moved. And she didn't even get anything moved out of there yet because it was just her by herself, and they came and bulldozed the house down. And what they do is dig a hole with the dozer and push the house into it and set it on fire and bury it after it burned down. And some of his relatives asked him where he had arranged to go to, and he said, well, nowhere. And they asked him why, and he said, where are you going to go when you're already home?
So we went ahead and took what they offered, and they gave us our house back, and we moved our house to Lake City, which is right north of Grand Rivers. And it was a traumatic time. My mother was still up there, and we had lived close to her, and she held out for a while, but she didn't fight. She just held out till the very last, I'd say. But of course, everybody eventually had to sell.
Those are the people that really suffered, and I think deprived of a lot of memory and association because they had to relocate to a total new area and new friends and family.
And on that deadline, they'd show up and push the house down if you didn't move it out. And they still had some time left, and he was going to school over at Murray and was coming over with a truck and taking a truckload at a time out. And he had taken one truckload, came back to get another one, and the house was gone. And he drove up to their headquarters to ask what had happened, and they were doing I think they called it a beautification project or something, getting rid of things, cleaning up, and said they already had the dozer there, and they stopped and looked in the windows and didn't think it looked like there was anything else there worth moving.
Well, it means a lot because the citizens that were born and raised here, and people that you grew up with, and they come back together this one time a year, and some people you don't see because they live in Lyon County, they live in Illinois, they live in all different places where they scattered when they left. So it means a lot to get with the old friends and families and relatives and kind of reminisce about it all.
I think for most of us, this is pretty important. That's why you're hanging on to it. Now, after frost and the ticks are gone, we'll start getting together every Saturday and try to make it around to all the cemeteries. And there's about 260 or so cemeteries over here now. And any of them that don't have somebody taking care of them, family or somebody around, we try to get to them at least once a year, just to keep them from disappearing into the woods.
Well, this is important because, first of all, it's one of the few times when you get to come back and find friends that you don't see in a year. I said I live 500-600 miles from here, so we don't get that many visits, and you get to touch them and hear stories and reminders. It's a homecoming. We come in for this one, and we also come in for a couple of the cemetery decorations. Now that's one thing at this same group, and they're involved in a lot of different things. When the government took over, they didn't take the cemeteries; they left them, and the upkeep of the cemetery is left to a small group of these volunteers. So you get to connect with them, and the cemetery becomes more than just a burial spot. That cemetery becomes a family connection in most cases. So it's very important to come together with these people and get a little reminder and refresh of old times in the past.